Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Black, White, and Green, issue number 1 from IDW. So this is one of those color-themed anthologies that every company seems to be doing. DC did it with Superman. I believe Dynamite did it with Red Sonja. IDW is doing it with the Turtles. I want to say that there's been more, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It's basically an anthology series, and it's supposed to have like colors for like the theme. So the series itself is going to be all in black and white, but in this case, there's going to be green. Like green's the only thing that's going to be colored. So I don't know. It just kind of feels like an excuse to like give colorists less work to do or something. And so yeah, there's 4 stories. I'm going to go over the first 2, Green Screen and The Brutal Sword of Leonardo. So Green Screen, let's just say this. Usually I like to block out like dialogue and stuff like that. I will just show this one panel with the text color so you can see what I'm talking about here when I say don't ever put a yellowish green font over a green background, especially a light green background. This just hurts my eyes. Like I can read it, but I have to kind of like strain to like actually read the words. You usually want to have either a really bright font over a really dark background or a dark font over a white background. You do not want to have a light green background with a yellow and greenish font. It's just, this is terrible. The story itself is kind of boring. It's basically Donnie becomes obsessed with computers. Right now, he's trying to find a way to create an algorithm so that he can keep track of every single crime that's reported in New York to make it easier for him and his brothers. But he becomes so obsessed that he starts neglecting everything other than this task. And so his brothers go out to go fight crime, like, just do patrols like they usually do. And Donnie is following them. Like he's basically pinging their whereabouts. But then all of a sudden they go off the grid. And so he gets worried, and Splinter's like, well, why don't you go check out on them in person and see how they're doing? And so they go, and he discovers that they're fighting Leatherhead. And during the fight, he has like an epiphany just as he gets knocked out. And so he wakes up, and Leatherhead's all tied up. His brothers basically tell him, yeah, like when he knocked you out, he just started laughing, and he got distracted, so we were able to capture him. And Donnie basically realizes that sometimes it's good to step away from the screen and focus on what truly matters, like family and stuff like that. Like, don't become obsessed with any one thing to the point that you neglect everything else around you. I was like, okay, that's like a good message, but the story itself was just kind of boring. I feel like that's what we're kind of getting with a lot of these, where it's like an interesting premise, but then the story, like, it doesn't have any time to breathe because we're trying to shove in 4 stories within 20 pages. So each story doesn't really have time to like fully get fleshed out. Like for example, the Brutal Sword of Leonardo sounds like a pretty cool idea for like a mini series. Basically, what happens is that Donnie is messing with some kind of project. It's like interdimensional travel, and he creates this like portal that sucks in Leonardo, and so Leonardo gets sent into the past, and he becomes the warrior king. Like he becomes a king of this kingdom. And it's just briefly like he gets sent to the past and then he's already the warrior king. Obviously, it's like times have passed, but we don't get to see like any montage or anything of him becoming the warrior king. It's just told to us, yeah, he landed in the past and now he's the warrior king. And there's this like lizard who's stealing this crystal that's going to like power something. It's not really given too much thought into, but basically this crystal is like a gem that can it holds a great power. Like Leonardo's like, we need to get it back. So he asks his kingdom, his men, like, who wants to join me? And everyone's like, oh, we'll join you. Like, you've helped us. You've made us prosper. You're a great king. So he's like, all right, let's set out on this journey. And as he's going through this journey, he starts becoming more and more bossy. He's basically just ordering his men. His men are kind of incompetent. Like at one point, they're trying to jump over rocks, use rocks as a stepping stone. And one of them gets distracted by a butterfly and slips, falls into the water, and the sea dragon attacks him. Another one goes to shoot at the sea dragon and completely misses. So afterwards, he kind of like tells them, like, hey, I told you to stop being distracted, and you you're gonna have to hit me 50 bullseyes when we get back. Like you need to work on your aim. And so he sneaks into this castle, and him and his men like fight off these lizard people. And Leo grabs the crystal just as the dimension portal opens up, and his brothers come out. And they're like, "Hey, we found you." And the brothers join into the fray and start helping Leonardo and his people fight off the reptilians. And then afterwards, the day is saved, everything's good. And Leo's telling his brothers that he thinks he's going to stay behind because these people need him. Like, they're not going to be able to do anything without his guidance. They're like, well, what about New York? Like, we need you there too. And he's like, nah, I think New York will be fine without my vision. And that's when they're like, your vision, dude, like, you're supposed to want to protect people for the sake of protecting them, not because you want to rule over them with an iron fist. That's when Leo realizes, oh, maybe the day-to-day struggle of this place has made me lose like a piece of myself. Maybe I've been pushing things too far. Maybe I'm not meant to be a warrior king. And so he falls with his brothers into the portal, and that's the end of that. And I was like, okay, that story itself sounds like it can be like a really cool miniseries. Where one of the turtles, like Leonardo, for example, gets sent back into the past, and he almost kind of becomes like Conan where we see him. He starts off as like just this wandering loner trying to find his way back to his time, and eventually he gets involved with like the politics of this world, and he rises up, becomes a king, and he's basically like King Conan, but it's King Leo instead. And he's ruling this kingdom, and he has like this rival and stuff like that. This like enemy kingdom, and they have like battles and stuff, and then eventually his brothers show up, and they're trying to convince him to join him. Like you can follow the same exact beat by beat story, but just flesh it out even more into like a full mini series. Like that would be like really cool. Unfortunately, everything is too rushed. And that's the problem with this series. I'm not going to go over the other two stories, but even the other two stories, like some of them will have good ideas and it's just rushed because you basically have, again, you have like 20 pages to tell 4 stories. So each story is getting like 5 pages? So you got 5 pages to tell an entire story. It's not enough time for the stories that they want to tell. Yeah, I think it's kind of a bummer. Like I think it would have been better if you want to do the whole black, white, and green thing, fine. And you want to make it an anthology, fine. But maybe make it like not each issue is an anthology, but the series in general is an anthology in the sense that each issue will have its own standalone, non-canon story. Rather than 4 stories in one issue, you can have 4 issues, each with its own story, like its own self-contained story. Like, I don't know, that might have been a little bit more interesting. Either that, or find stories that can be told in 5 pages. Because like I said, some of these stories, it's just 5 pages is not enough. Especially the Brutal Sword of Leonardo. Like that sounds like something that could be an entire issue. I would say an entire mini-series, but maybe you can do it in an issue. Like this is something that really should have been like fleshed out more because it's an awesome premise. And the idea of Leo becoming like this warrior king over these like anthropomorphic creatures, and because of his ruling and because of the way the world is, he starts losing more and more of himself and becoming more and more brutal because he has to be brutal to survive in this place and to like rule. So like he kind of has to roll with an iron fist. But as he's ruling with an iron fist, he's losing more and more of himself. Like that sounds like a really cool idea. And I would love to see like a little like non-canon mini series of it or something. But trying to tell that whole story in 5 pages, it's just not enough. So yeah, while I like the idea of Turtles Black, White, and Green, I feel like we got to have different stories. Or maybe instead of trying to give us 4 stories, I get why they're doing 4. Like 1 for each character. But maybe we just need to bring it down to 2 stories, so that each story has more time to get fleshed out. Either that, or you gotta find some way to come up with a story that only needs 5 pages and doesn't feel rushed. Because right now everything just feels really, really rushed. So kind of a bummer in that case. I don't know. I don't want to say it's fine or it's okay or anything like that. It's a good idea, good premises, poor execution. And I say poor execution just because it's not given enough time. It's not given enough pages to fully get fleshed out. So everything is rushed. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Black, White, and Green. What do you think? You agree, disagree? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.